You should not forget the way you were as a beginner. This particularly popular phrase among Japanese is actually words from Style and the Flower, or Fushikaden, by Zeami. The 14th century actor and playwright laid the foundation of No, a Japanese traditional theater art. The popular interpretation of the phrase is that you should not forget the humility and fresh motivations you had at the beginning, but this may not be what he intended to communicate. He knew the dilemma faced by those who seek to attain mastery in their field. Of course, actors practice every day to refine their performance. However, the more they improve, the wider gap they might develop from the senses and expectations from the general audience. To the eye of the uninformed audience, the highest level of the art is beyond their ability to appreciate. Instead of adhering to a sophisticated style alone, one needs to switch their style, in order to entertain the audience right in front of them. In other words, one has to remain conscious of beginners' interest and preference, while mastering their skills. The insightful lessons from Zeami do not end here. How will his words inspire you to bloom in your field? If it is hidden, it is the flower. If it is not hidden, it is not the flower. This is perhaps the most famous phrase from Style and the Flower. In the theater, the flower is impressive only when it's been kept secret, and the audience is not aware of even the existence of the flower, let alone its content. This principle may apply not only to theatrical performance, but also to the broader aspects of what constitutes personal charm. Attraction is not something to be forcefully conveyed, but what radiates naturally from within. For example, if a successful businessperson starts boasting about his status and assets when you didn't even ask about it, you will suddenly find the person unappealing. Attraction blooms from various kinds of seeds: genuine love and respect for others, profound intelligence, steady confidence cultivated through challenges and growth, and so on. These are reflected in your words, attitudes, expressions, and the tone of voice, which effortlessly attract other people. Personal charm is something they can't help but realize automatically, so if you have to explicitly advertise your attraction, it can hardly be considered genuine charm. In fact, the beauty of the flower will be undermined by the desperation to make a good impression, the ego to prove oneself, and thirst for approval. If you have the real flower inside, it will inevitably communicate even if it's hidden. The first chapter of Style and the Flower divides an actor's life into 7 periods, and articulates necessary practice and mindset at each age range. For example, actors aged 24 or 25 are often praised by the audience, since their tone and physique have matured, along with the freshness of youth. However, Zeami says, this flower is not the true flower. It is only the flower of the moment, a temporary fleeting bloom derived from the advantages peculiar to this age. The mind that misunderstands the flower of this period to be the true flower is a mind that is far from reaching the real flower. Zeami also wrote, mastery is knowing the cause and effect of the flower. He means that one has to be self-aware of what factors consist of the flower. Some factors belong to you, such as your skills and experiences, while others are beyond your control, including the chemistry with other actors, the audience's attributes and interests, the atmosphere of the venue, and so on. In other words, he warns us not to be swayed by superficial successes and failures. It is foolish to be proud of your success supported by factors other than your own ability, and conversely, it is pointless to worry too much about your failure when the tide is against you. According to Style and the Flower, the art of No makes the viewer its very foundation. By necessity, actors have to tailor their performances to the preference and the fashion of the audience. On the other hand, Zeami wrote in the book, if you get obsessed with praise and give in to the preference of the audience, it will be the first cause of your decline. These two statements may sound contradictory to each other. What does he exactly mean? Unlike paintings and literature, the theater is a temporary form of art. It disappears as soon as it's performed, leaving nothing tangible behind. Geniuses ahead of their times, like Van Gogh or Spinoza, were not understood by people contemporary with them, but they earned their reputations after their deaths, because they could leave their artworks behind. However, this is not the case with theater artists. Great theater arts cannot exist without the praise from the audience, who share the same time and place with the artists. No actors have to deliver what the viewers expect, whereas the actors should not lose themselves by being consumed with temporary praise and momentary fame. Zeami understood that the theater arts inevitably entail this contradiction, and the flower can only exist when we carefully balance these conflicting objectives. At the same time, he seemed to know how to stay consistent under this contradiction. Zeami says, essentially, the art of no is to soothe the minds of the audience, and move both the high and the low equally. It is what brings health and happiness to everyone. He had a clear purpose for performing and mastering the play. Satisfying the audience's expectations can occasionally conflict with mastering the art without being blinded by fame. However, he could harmoniously integrate these two objectives, because he had a higher ambition of bringing happiness to people. Style and the Flower is full of sound advice to be a great actor, and Zeami consistently maintains a logical and scientific approach. Interestingly, however, he also says, what solely matters in training is not giving up. This is especially intended for 17 and 18-year-olds. During this period, the actor's voice and physical build have changed, and he has lost the beautiful elegance of a child. Due to these changes, the acting and practicing methods suddenly have to change. Furthermore, if the actor sees the audience indicating that his performance is poor, he will be embarrassed and discouraged to continue. These physical alterations in puberty are beyond the reach of their effort. Nevertheless, the audience is indifferent to such circumstances. If they don't find the flower they expect in the performance, they are relentlessly disappointed. The only thing he can do is not give up, by convincing himself that this is the defining moment in his life, while refraining from intense practice, so as not to cause damage to his voice at this sensitive period. This is not only true for 18-year-old no actors. Whether it is in studying, sports, or business, our skills will not always improve linearly in proportion to the effort. We cannot always enjoy the sense of growth. Also, sometimes the obstacles to growth are completely out of our control. Moreover, even when we don't feel we are growing, we are possibly building a very important foundation under the surface, which we don't recognize. We have no choice but to continue steadily, regardless of whether we feel progress or not. Zeami might have defined true experts as follows. They don't get moved by temporary success and failure, don't rest on current fame, and humbly keep practicing, in pursuit of constant growth. Let us conclude with words from his other book, Kakyo. A life has an end. The mastery of the arts does not.